Hi, everyone. My name is David Kelly. I'm the Program Director for the eLearning Guild, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to another Twist Conversation. Today, I'm pleased to be welcoming Gary Wise from Xerox. Welcome, Gary.
David, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for joining me. So I know you're going to be joining us at the DevLearn Conference and Expo this October, and you're going to be talking about performance support and different things. And I know we've had some conversations about this in the past, and you feel that there's some disruption needed in the training paradigms and the way we approach learning and performance, and that we need to disrupt that and make some changes. Can you give me an idea of what sort of disruption you think is needed within our industry?
Well, actually, I'm going to talk about disruption from a couple perspectives. First of all, it's the business climate and the demand for continuous learning and the urgency to perform flawlessly on the job that's going to be a source of disruption that is going to drive our need to disrupt what we currently do in our traditional training paradigm. I believe that the disruption of our climate and our environment is going to be the source of the disruption that we need to address in order to adapt and step up to the demands of supporting our folks at the point of work.
I think that's a great way of looking at it. I completely agree. I think for a lot of people, they're not comfortable just disrupting it because it improves their practice. They're going to react to the disruption that's going on around them. So whether we're disrupting it on our own or whether we have to react to the realities of the disruptions going around us, things are going to be disrupted. So the next question I have is, I know one of the ways that you feel that performance support can facilitate that disruption is through EPS, or embedded performer support. Can you give me an idea of what that is, and maybe give me some examples that can help me understand what that looks like? And before you do that, I apologize. You and I are so familiar that I didn't feel the need to have you introduce yourself because I know you, but some of the people watching the video may not. So before you answer that question, if you can also just introduce yourself to the viewers.
Okay, not a problem. I have been around longer than I'm willing to admit in the corporate learning and development discipline. I'm currently working with Xerox Learning Services, and I think probably the last 10 years or so of the 30 plus that I've been in this industry have been the most meaningful, and I think the most impactful, because I've sort of learned by doing to address this concept of embedded performance support. And that's kind of the role that I'm in now. I am a performance and learning strategist at Xerox. Performance and learning as opposed to learning and performance. And that's not just a play on words. It's the emphasis is on performance before the emphasis hits learning. And that's kind of the discipline that I'll be talking about here in just a few minutes with embedded performance support. Is we're prioritizing performance outcomes over learning outcomes because that's where value is generated within the business. And I think behind this disruption that I'm talking about is that shift in thinking away from what are our learning objectives to what are the performance outcomes that we seek. And not just the outcomes, but the ability to sustain them in the context of actual work. So that's kind of who I am. That's what's driving my passion, and I'm just delighted to be back with the Guild for another conference. We've been pretty regular with appearances and talking on this concept, and each iteration sort of evolves to an even greater level of depth and how to adopt a discipline of embedded performance support. And that's kind of where I'm going to go this time around later in October, is to talk about how to develop a roadmap to adopt embedded performance support. And it's a discipline. It's not a technology, although technology very well can be a part of it as it evolves through the adoption phases. As the maturity level increases in adoption. And I wouldn't necessarily call it a methodology either. It truly is a discipline. Methodologies like 70-20-10 or agile development methods are all part of this, but I think that's the question that keeps coming up in the breakout sessions that I'm in is, great, I understand what you're saying. I understand we really need to go this way, but where do I start? What do I do first? How do I get there? And that's sort of where I hope to go in this session in October, is to talk about the key components of adopting a methodology like this, the kinds of challenges that you'll run into, and some baby steps, if you will, to start this process, because it's not throw the switch and all of a sudden you're there. There are several stages in the maturity model, and I think that's the approach, is start small and scale. Bob Mosier and Conrad Gottfredson coined that phrase, and I'm so delighted to be working with them in their new performance support community that's being developed. They're actually, I think, announcing that in Boston at the Performance Support Symposium next week. But I'm on the leadership council for that group with several other folks, and it's sort of fueling the passion, and I'm just delighted to be able to iterate one more time with the Guild at DevLearn.
Excellent, and we're really looking forward to that. And one of the things that you said that I really liked and resonated with me was the idea of looking at embedded performance support as a discipline more than anything else, because it's a mindset in many ways of the way you're approaching your work. And related to that, once you have that mindset, it's still supported by the tools that you have available, and you can't have the conversation around tools without talking about the various technologies that are available that can support this idea and this sort of work. So if I was you talk about getting started, if I'm going to be walking down this path, what kind of technologies are available, whether they're readily available or specific performance support types of tools that are in play? What sort of things should I be looking at from a technology standpoint?
Well, the most popular technology, and this typically shows up in the latter stages of the maturity model, is called an electronic performance support system, or EPSS. It's very attractive. I've written several blog posts on the bright shiny object syndrome. It can be purchased too soon, and my caution would be, and in keeping with that phrase that I just mentioned that Bob and Con coined, which is start small and scale, build a proof of concept on something small and manageable that is visible, where tangible impact can be seen easily, and the technology that's required for something like that is most likely already in place. One of the most popular is SharePoint. And you don't need SharePoint. As long as you have some sort of capability to access performance support assets via a URL directly, you have the technology. The question becomes, how do you author it? It can be as simple as PowerPoint. So basically all the tools and ingredients are already in the kitchen. This is not an exotic approach. I think when people hear about embedded performance support, the first thing that comes to mind is, oh no, we're going to have to ask for budget. We have already got budget nailed down. I can't go asking for more money. They're not going to give me more money. You really don't need more money. What you need is a operational stakeholder who recognizes that there is a performance gap, and if you can close that gap using performance support assets, which could be as simple as 2 or 3 well-developed job aids that you can knock out in a week or two, and put those online directly available. It could be a link off an intranet. It could be, if you have a portal, it could be a link off a portal, or it could be something that you go directly into SharePoint. The closer to the point of work where you can access this, the better off you're going to be. And the tangible results that come out of this kind of small initiative will be a visible return on investment that you can then extrapolate into a larger scale to go enterprise-wide if it pans out. Typically what I'm seeing is it does pan out, and the ROI even on small initiatives are positive. And the payback is virtually immediately. The neat thing about that is that gives you the ammunition to go back, and all of a sudden you've got a business case where there'll be no resistance or hesitation to provide budget money when you start showing 100, 200, 300% return on investment that's directly tied to performance that sustains performance, not just a one-hit wonder that you might spike after a training class. You want something that's going to last, and that's this whole concept of sustained capability that comes out of an EPS discipline.
Excellent. One of the things I really like about what you said is the inclusion of a maturity model within that discussion. Because so many times I think, especially within any industry, I guess, but specifically within ours, is that a lot of times we're looking for the silver bullet, the thing that we can get that is going to solve everything, and we're going to buy. This is the great tool, and we're going to buy this, and it's going to solve our problems, without looking at our organization and our culture and saying, are we ready for that? Or is this the right tool for us for where we are today? So understand that bringing the maturity model in gives you that drives home the importance of realizing where you are as an organization, and where your ecosystem is sitting, and what's the maturity of that. I think that's a great piece to add to that discussion, because sometimes we just focus on the technology and the methodologies without looking back at ourselves and thinking about where are we in this spectrum.
Right. Unfortunately, the breakout session is only an hour. I could talk about this for hours. You know, I've had a tendency to do that on occasion in our little networking events. But I will have a handout that describes the maturity model, and I'll refer to that on several occasions. So I don't want to spend valuable how-to time during our limited conversation in the breakout session. But the maturity model will be a handout that gives you some sense of just exactly what are the steps, and sort of sets the expectation that this doesn't happen overnight. This whole concept of start small and scale is absolutely essential. And how you pick something small is part of the conversation that we'll be talking about when we start defining what does the discovery look like, what are you looking for to start down this road.
Excellent. And as you mentioned, this could be a very wide discussion that can go in a number of different directions. And I know you're targeting a specific aspect of this conversation during your breakout session at DevLearn. Can you give me an idea if I know it covers a lot of what we've been talking about here, but if I'm going to be attending your session in October, can you give me an idea of where the focus is going to be and what my experience is going to look like?
Sure. I'm going to start primarily with what is the disruption that's driving this? And what are we looking to achieve as a result of adopting an embedded performance solution? And the first key to that that's actionable is, how does that change, or how does that disrupt your discovery methodology? What are the kinds of questions that you ask? One of the skills that would be important to add to your toolbox would be performance consulting. The objective is not to change people into performance consulting, but to be able to ask a few of the questions that a seasoned performance consultant would ask that uncovers performance gaps, and are those legitimate gaps that would be a good fit for an embedded performance support solution. So we'll talk about that. The discovery sort of leads into this concept that I call of intentional design. Now, there's a lot of conversation about agile design and 70-20-10, and I'm sure there's other models out there that maybe not be as visible at this point, other than following the traditional ADDIE model. SAM is another model that has an iterative approach to it. The concept of intentional design is, what are your intentions behind using an agile model, or 70-20-10, or SAM, or whatever model you choose to use? The intent is to prioritize performance over learning. Now, this doesn't eliminate training, but it might reduce the amount of training that has to be done if I can implement incrementally performance support assets while I'm doing an 8 to 16 week hour-long e-learning class development cycle. The whole concept is, why wait 16 weeks if I can pump something out that's a performance support asset within a week or two and drive some incremental impact while I am building my storyboard and building my traditional learning? And you just may find out that what comes out of this performance precludes the need to spend as much time as you might in the development of training. In some cases, it might eliminate training. And I've got some stories that I can share of organizations that decided against training because their performance gaps were closed and performance was sustained simply by using performance support assets. But if you don't do the discovery on the front end, if you don't have the right intent behind your design model, whatever it may be, to focus on and prioritize performance first, you may be going down the path of a traditional training solution when you might have had something that was a lot more readily available had you gone there with the intent behind your efforts. So that's the concept behind intentional design. And when you look at this intentional design, that really defines what is this EPS discipline. What does it mean, and how do I go about taking this discipline and implementing it with the technology that I might have? I look at the performance zone, which is something that Gloria Geary wrote about, and define what is the performance zone and how does that feed into the EPS pyramid. And I use a pyramid graphic that shows what are the components of the EPS discipline, and some of them are recognizable as structured learning, which comes out of the learning management system. So the LMS still has a role. That's a technology that's already in place. But what technology may exist that can come first, that I can drive impact, performance impact, measurable performance impact before I even get to the learning management system? And to provide some continuity through that whole rollout of those assets. This whole concept of, and I refer to this as create once, use many times, those assets that I develop specifically for performance support are the very same assets that get embedded within the formal training. So what may be refined and iterative in my early incremental implementations with my intentional design model, I've tested and refined those assets with the test group. Could be users, could be SMEs. Users are probably better than SMEs for that type of thing. But refining those objects then gives me a completed object that I can then, with confidence, embed within a training program to where I've got experiential exercises already embedded within my training. So there's some consistency, a thread of continuity, if you will, that runs through the performance into the learning. Hence, a performance and learning environment is what we're trying to support.
That's a great description of it. And one of the things that I love about DevLearn is very representative in what you're talking about, and where we're providing people with alternatives to further their practice. The idea that training is the only option to address a performance need is outdated, and that's one of the things that DevLearn is all about, looking at the best possible solution given the circumstances. So I like it. I love the fact that the conversation that you're shaping around performance support is going to be part of that conversation at DevLearn this October.
Well, I'm excited as well, and DevLearn, not to blow smoke, David, but DevLearn is the best conference for this type of thing, and I enjoy being a part of all the Guild events, but DevLearn, I think, is my favorite.
You know, if that's what the smoke is going to look like, I'm okay with you blowing smoke. That's fine. Well, right. If you want to learn more about Gary's session or any of the stuff that is going to go on at that amazing conference that Gary was just talking about, please do visit our website, devlearn14.com. The DevLearn 14 Conference and Expo takes place October 29th through 31st in Las Vegas at the Bellagio Hotel. We've got Neil deGrasse Tyson as the opening keynote, a number of great surprises for the 10th year at DevLearn this year. It's going to be the best DevLearn yet, so we hope that you can be a part of it. Gary, I really appreciate you spending some time talking about performance support with me this morning.
Same here, David. Look forward to seeing you in Las Vegas in October.
I look forward to that as well, and we look forward to seeing you either in Las Vegas in October or next time here on Twist Conversations. Take care, everybody.
See ya.